All we care about is persistency and lifetime value. The only way of getting persistency and lifetime value is by doing the right thing.
This just in. We've had a higher mix of Medicare Advantage this entire AEP than we've ever had in company history.
You can't have everything free with a whole bunch of extras and pay the agents a crap ton of money as well. The math doesn't add up.
Hey guys, I'm Curt Graham with EIP, back again for another Inside Edition with Jagger. Today we're going to jump in and let's talk about AEP, where it's at. I think we're in the last week here. So it's the hectic time of all of the clients that have been putting it off, the procrastinators that now need to get everything taken care of right now. But how has this AEP been? I know we start off, and initially one of the big things is we have a lot of MA towards the beginning of our enrollment season. And then we move kind of more to what we traditionally do with our Medicare supplement clients, kind of midway through the season. Has it played out the same this year with everything that's going on in the MA market?
Yeah, we've actually had a higher mix of MA this entire AEP than we've ever had in company history. But you're 100% right. Obviously, the first 2-3 weeks of AEP are dominantly MA, and that's mainly because of our pipeline throughout the entire year. One big thing that we instill in our agents, and now we've got AI listening and we've got some other cool things that are going on with it, is what we call AEP follow-up. So we'll actually schedule for the first day of October, and then we'll kind of, once we figure out, most agents had 30 to 40 follow-ups, from conversations throughout the entire year that they couldn't do anything until AEP. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take those ops and then spread them out evenly before the 7th, really from October 1st to the 6th. Well, why? Because their plans are out there, but you can't actually enroll until the 15th or whatever. So really from the 15th on until the first week of November, we were dominantly MA, and then it just flopped. Once we got through all those service area reductions for current clients and such like that, then it was dominant. I wouldn't say dominantly. I mean, we were about 80% med sup and 20% MA. And that's what I expect to see from the second week of November until the end of the year.
And I mean, this year we've talked a lot about special needs, chronic condition plans, and some of the other carriers that weren't quite as big in years past. I think we've seen that in our numbers. Our CSNPs have gone up throughout this enrollment period. And then some of the smaller carriers, I think Devoted's been a bigger part of our mix this year than in years past. A couple others that are just coming in and showing up in years that we haven't seen, because what?
Yeah, let's talk mix really quick. You're 100% right. I mean, Devoted was essentially 2% of our business prior to AEP this year. They're about 8% of the business now, so they've got a heavy lift. UHC was always kind of equal with Humana, and UHC has dropped significantly. So in order, now mind you, we don't represent all the small carriers. We don't even do Anthem WellCare because of some politics stuff, behind the scenes, with them. But Humana was definitely the leader this AEP. Aetna was a close second to Humana. UHC still came in third. Cigna Devoted came in fourth, and then Cigna came in fifth, and then a couple other, smaller companies that we represent like Zing and stuff like that. But it was a weird AEP from that perspective. We just didn't expect what we didn't expect on that side of it, but it's nice to see.
And I know some of the things that, I've put videos out and a lot of agents are talking about is how do we manage our non-commissionable or lower commissionable plans? UHC on the PPO side of things, Humana also on the PPO side of things. But did we do anything in particular, or was it just do right by the client and it's going to kind of have to work itself out in the mix?
Yeah, that's how we went into it this year. It was, we had a lot of, you and I talked about it quite a few times. I talked about it with David and Philip quite a few times is, if it's commissionable, we're going to sell it, whether it be half comp or not. And then we'll kind of see what the end of the year look like. So that'll be coming in with our modeling and stuff. Just kind of see, from a commission perspective, we use a company called Tenero to handle all of our commissions. So we'll be able to really go in there and run reports on it and see what plans, what the average commission was, that type of stuff. So we'll analyze after end of year. So sometime in January, we'll analyze it and then we'll determine if we're going to still do the same thing in 26. But we want to do right by the client, but we also have to make money as a company, right? And I mean, that's where a lot of people are. I get it, right? I don't agree with, unfortunately, what these carriers are doing. And I like some of the things that I'm seeing out there with these groups. I understand why the carriers are doing it. They've got to make money, right, as well. But when it comes down to it, we're going to reanalyze at the end of December going into January and then determine what we're going to do in 2026.
I mean, and it could be a different story next year with now, last time I looked, it was 8 different state departments of insurance have come out and made comments on what's been going on the commission side. And they're looking at it not, as, friends of the insurance agent, but, advocates for the members that live in the states.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people miss out on when they, when this conversation comes up and they talk about Medicare Advantage commissions and things along those lines. A lot of times it's not just that, it's removing the ability to do electronic applications and things like that. And so I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see some motion coming out of, either, some legislative conversations that come up on that side of things, or more states coming at the carriers and the carriers potentially having to change what they were doing next year. And yeah, they've got to make money. But they also have to offer the products to the clients like they said they were going to. And so I think next year is going to be another learning curve for everybody on this side. But I mean, all that
good
being
news
said,
is it's cleaning up the industry a little bit. There's some people, some of these big groups that are getting out that were doing the wrong things, right? And always chasing that dollar versus, doing the right thing by the consumer. And the more that we get into this compliance stuff, instead of the carriers just chasing the enrollments and them chasing the compliant enrollments, the things that are doing right by the consumers, right? That alone is going to clean up the industry, and it's going to make more profitable for the carriers and for the brokerage companies and everything else, because, all we care about is persistency. We care about lifetime value. And the only way of getting persistency and lifetime value is doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, that is the key. And ultimately that's what we want to do as agents. We don't want to have some weird, special tool that we need to know what plan is commissionable and what's not. It's like, hey, what are the right
that Sunfire does it? I don't know if Connexure or DRX does it. It's great that it's there and it does it because, we've been doing it on the Medicare supplement side with guaranteed issue policies for a long time. If we know it's true guaranteed issue, right? Not open enrollment, but true guaranteed issue, we'll always try to underwrite them, right? Wrong or ugly carriers. You heard it from me directly. You guys know this. At the end of the day, we want to get paid, right? And we try to go underwritten first. In the event that you can't get them underwritten, right? Then the right thing by the consumer is to have them go guaranteed issue. Right. That's the right thing to do, but we want to get paid. And it's the same thing on the MA side of it. But it's really tying our hands because we want to do right by the consumer. And then unfortunately, these things come out. Like if the plans didn't exist, then they don't exist. Right. But when we know it's there, it's hard for us just to, like, when we don't offer elements or we don't offer WellCare, which I want to, but I wouldn't say it's politics. I'd say it's more so the things that they've done in the past. Not so much Elevance, but WellCare. And I'd love to mend that relationship over time and hopefully, do some business with them again and be a player with Elevance as well, or even, yeah. But at the end of the day, I didn't like what they've done to the industry, with the non-commissionable stuff and everything else. So, we decided to not offer them. It's been over a year with WellCare, and Elevance. It's probably been about 6 months.
And now all that, we just talked mainly MA. Med Sup side, everything is steady.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had commission increases, but there's always commission increases, and it's not uniform across the country.
Listen, everybody said 3 years ago MedSup was dead, right? It was dying. Market share, yeah, MA market share is over 50%. It's because all these big call centers, right? We're a large call center, but there's many that are much bigger than us, that we're just chasing the dollar, pushing the enrollments, not doing needs analysis and fact finding, that we're just pushing everybody to MA. Well, of course you're going to be north of 50% at that point with it. And everybody, it's MedSup's dying. No, now we got groups coming to us. I mean, Curt, you're onboarding a few really big shops, 2, 3, 4, 500 agents that are coming over to us, wanting to get into the Met Sup side of things. And we're going to teach them the way to do it. We're going to teach them the right way to do it. So they can, get back to what everybody should be doing. And it's being an advocate for their clients and, doing a needs analysis and fact finding education, and then putting the clients with the right product, whether that be a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare Supplement.
Yeah. Ultimately, they're neither one of them are perfect fit for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. And then now I think of Minnesota. I saw a map where I think they've got like 4 or 5 plans available in the state.
Yeah.
Not including the special needs plans, but just general plans that are available to the public.
What do you do when there's no plans that are available, right? When you had options available from one of the core carriers, and then now all of a sudden they're gone. Like, what do you do as a consumer? And when you're living on only on Social Security or very fixed income, right? Your original Medicare is an option, right? Where you don't have to really, you pay your Part B, at that point, or if you're getting subsidized for it, right? But high deductible G is an amazing option, right? Not many people really understand. There's a lot of carriers out there, United American, Mutual of Omaha, that Aetna, I believe, has some high deductible plans that are freaking awesome. I personally, I've said this before in other videos, like, I'm going to buy a high deductible plan personally whenever if Medicare is around. Medicare supplements are around when I turn 65 or 70, whatever the age is at that time. But I love high deductible.
Yeah, I think it's a great option, and sometimes now the only option. Now, with all that said, AEP is coming to an end. This is the last week, right? And interesting stat I heard, 30% of all production in AEP happens in the last 2 weeks. So let's just, 15% of all AEP production is going to happen this week. So it's still a very big, important week. There's no reason to take the foot off the gas and kind of look past your current,
this is our 11th AEP. I would say, from what I saw yesterday on the first, I would say that, this is by far our biggest week of the year. We have all agents working both Saturday and Sunday. I think it's the second Sunday in company history we've actually required, our agents to come in. We make it optional for, if you want to work on Sundays, you can work on Sundays. But the entire team will be here the entire week. I don't know the exact numbers, but I can tell you that yesterday we hit 210% of goal. So it's big numbers.
So yeah, it's time to do that. But now, as management and looking past AEP, the team's obviously focused on AEP, the agents themselves, but looking into OEP and the plans for next year, what's your thoughts? Where are we going?
I would even say December 8th, so years previous, it was always, the messaging to the team has always been, come December 8th, it's going to be, crickets and stuff. And we changed our mentality from an advertising perspective last year, and we were still generating a significant amount of leads. And now the costs go up substantially, right? Because demand goes down, cost goes up, right? That just is what it is. But we ended up still having a significant second and third week. The fourth week, we've always given the entire company off. We're doing things a little bit different this year. We're not just gifting it to everybody. There's certain qualifications that are met to get company PTO, not personal PTO that they have to use. But the second and the third week of December, we expect to break some records again this year. And we're just making it mentally known and prepared, to the team. Our at least on our Medicare side, life insurance is a little bit different. But on the Medicare side, that, they're going to be heads down and, keep grinding until I think it's the 24th, right? The 24th, because then we'll probably end up doing a half a day on the 24th, more than likely, and all TBD. And then from there, they have all the way off until the 5th, as long as they hit numbers and they qualify for it. That's some good time off. So let's grind between now and the 24th, but don't let off the gas come the 8th.
And now you mentioned life, we've had several meetings. We talked about it in management. Life has been a big area of growth for us this year. I know we just hired a very big life class recently. They're coming on the phones, and
yesterday had an amazing day. I think we had, of the 40 that officially started, I think it was 38 maybe. I think we're down to 30. And now that's mainly because of us, pushing the bottom performers out, or the people that, is it a skill or will issue, right? If it's a will issue and you're not willing to listen to what we're coaching and such, we're just going to get you out the door quick. But yesterday, they became JR2s, essentially the second month on the phones. And I believe we hit over 100% of goal yesterday. And that they're only on the phones for half a day right now, I believe it is. So yeah, we're starting to take off.
And so that seems like a good portion of what we're going to be doing next year is growing that life team. Obviously, still the Medicare team, but the life team is going to be a big part of the mix. I mean, what we've heard from a lot of call centers out there that were just Medicare Advantage. I mean, some of them got cut off at the knees by the carriers, and they weren't allowed to offer the carriers anymore. There's not much you can do with the business if you can't sell the products, right? But some of them have had a tough annual election period, just generally with a lot of the changes that have gone on with the service area reductions, having to deal with, replacing a big portion of your book or rewriting a big portion of your book. But with kind of the diversification that we've had with the focus on, the life insurance as well this past year, it's foot on the pedal, all gas next year, right?
Everything, we're still trying to understand the data. Now that we've actually got a decent amount of agents there, putting up a decent amount of volume with multiple carriers, we've got our analytics team ultimately really just breaking down the data as much as we possibly can. Now on the Medicare side, I have 11 years worth of data, right? So, and we're very data makes decisions for us. On life insurance, you got to remember we started life insurance in October of last year, and we had one agent at the time. We had another class of 5 or 6, which 3 of them are still with us. With all that being said, right, we don't have a ton of data that's there. Now, we are looking at the data right now. We are doubling down on life insurance next year. I'm certain of that. I don't know how much. Are we gonna hire, another 100 agents? Are we going to hire another 50 agents? But that's what we're trying to figure out today. The big thing that I always heard, and why I stayed away from, I've always stayed in my own lane. Like, I've known Medicare. I love Medicare. I'm really good at Medicare generating leads, love the product, so on and so forth. But I stayed away from Medicare because of the things that I heard, right? I heard that, the persistency was crap. Rapid disenrollment was really high. The decline rates were through the roof and everything else like that. That's not what we're seeing, right? And these carriers are reaching out to us saying, hey, we want to take you out to dinner. We're seeing the business that you're writing, but the quality of business you're writing. And the approach that we took, Curt, was do the same thing we're doing on the Medicare side, right? We're needs analysis, fact finding, education, quoting, and getting the right product to the consumer, not just shoving something down their throat, right, that they're going to go cancel week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. So everything that I'm seeing data wise, I'm really liking. CPA wise, I'm really liking. First year commission wise, I'm really liking. Gross, profit, really liking as well. And the thing that I just don't know yet is really because on Medicare, we really look at 10-year persistency. Really, I care about the first 6 because that's when we're making the majority of our money on the Medicare supplement side of things, at least, right? MA is quite different. You get paid the same thing as long as the person stays on the books. Life insurance, it's really the first year. So we're looking at that heavily, just to see what our first year persistency is to really then determine what our actual, call it first year commission is, which then, we can get a kind of an ROI or a ROAS, on that. So we're still trying to figure out those numbers, but I can tell you that we'll at least double the team next year, if not triple or quadruple the team next year. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing.
I think it's something you didn't mention is it's yes, the right process, the sales process and the products and everything. But one of the things that, traditionally you would hear from groups that sold final expense and Medicare is they were kind of halfway. They do Medicare during the Medicare season and they do final expense during the off season. And so then you've got agents that are, as they're kind of really getting their stride, understanding all the products, really getting their pitch down, then bam, it's back to Medicare. And then Medicare season ends. And then, I got to relearn life insurance. Whereas we don't think, we haven't seen where you're taking a Medicare Advantage agent and throwing them onto a final expense call and having success from that, because it's just a different mentality of a type of call. It's sale, not an enrollment.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking to a lot of our potential downlines and our downlines that are kind of playing on the idea. Okay, well, hey, I want to sell med sup. I also want to think about final expense. Can I take my MA guys and Q2 and Q3, right? OEP, AEP, put them on MA, and then Q2 and Q3 put them on final expense. And I always ask them, the number one question I ask is your MA agent, are they a sales agent or are they a enrollment specialist? And most of these groups that are selling dominantly MA, they're enrollment specialists, right? They're not actual sales agents, where our agents are, I consider them sales agents, right? Again, needs analysis, fact finding, education, right? Then you're quoting and then you're ultimately closing. Most of the shops that are out there that are thinking about this, that are trying to get away because they're dominantly MA, right, are enrollment specialists. You can't, and I'd love for somebody to prove me wrong here. You can't take that agent that's been doing that for a number of years and then have them go do final expense. Why? There's actually sales that are needed for final expense. You're not just enrolling that person. Now, if you find a great lead quality that you just become an enrollment specialist like you do on MA, shit, tell me about it. I'll buy as many of those leads as I possibly can. But that doesn't exist in the industry. It's like Medicare supplements. There's no just enroll. And this is what we're teaching our downlines. I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday. You and I haven't even talked about it. And they're like, man, we took a couple of our MA agents and trying to get them to sell Medicare supplements, and they can't get it to work. And I said, well, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're doing essentially the same thing we're doing on MA. And I was like, I told you guys, you can't do that, right? You got to take the playbook that we're doing. We will teach you as your upline how to do this, but you have to listen, right? So, but going back to final expense, there's a lot of people that think that they're going to do that, right? With the SEPs going away, disaster stuff, the carriers aren't going to allow supposedly, we'll see, right? Q2 and Q3, like, what are you going to do with all your MA agents in Q2 and Q3? There's the new proposed rule where if somebody, a network doctor or hospital, I think doctor drop out, like, how is CMS going to ultimately, or the care, how do you administer that?
That's going to be a nightmare.
I like the idea of it, right?
I do too.
I like the idea of it, but how are they going to administer it? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, the carriers they're trying to find any enrollment that they possibly can. Hopefully they're getting away from that, not just numbers, actual quality enrollments. But like, how are you going to say, that was their primary care. Dr. Smith, that dropped out of the market, was their primary care. Agents and agencies, right, get creative, and your doctor was so. It's like, no, it wasn't really Dr. Smith. It was Dr. Patel over here, and he just dropped out of the network. So now we've got an SCP. Like, agents and agencies are going to get creative. It's just, how are these carriers? How is CMS essentially going to govern that?
And also, that's a proposed rule change. It's not even, if anything, it won't take effect until 2027.
Correct.
So anybody that's starting to count on that as an idea, and getting, coming up with creative ways. First off, we don't know how it's going to be done. And then two,
carriers figure it out before these guys get creative, right? I mean, figure it out before they get creative, because all it's going to do is it's going to bring bad actors back into the space, because then they've got an opportunity in Q2 and Q3 to make bad decisions.
I want to kind of step back on what you were saying about like the type of agent and enrollment specialist. It's not that Medicare Advantage agents are bad agents. I think it's just a different skill set.
Yeah.
And if you're because listen, on the Medicare Advantage side, you've got compliance. You've got to read things word for word. And it's a skill to get a client to be willing to even sit through some of that stuff. Right. And be compliant with you. Compliance isn't just what the agent does. It's having the client that's willing to be compliant. I know, over the years when I was selling Medicare Advantage and I'd have to go through the entire, summary of benefits, some clients would be like, this is ridiculous. Why do I even need to do this? And so it is a real skill, especially if you're doing it over the phone. But it's a different skill that, doesn't necessarily transition well to a Medicare or to a final expense person. And just like a final expense person, they're probably not used to reading a whole boatload of disclaimers and right. So it's too, so if you've got
carriers don't care about it, right? It's so weird that, like, because we were built Medicare, right? We were med sup. We always had compliance, right? Per se, we've always recorded calls, whether we had to or not, just from a training purposes and what have you. Then you introduce MA, and now you got to be word for word, disclaimers, disclosures, all that. So final expense is kind of wild west again. They don't, ask for calls. Now we do have our final expense agents that are 100% recorded, right? We still maintain those recordings, I think forever, actually, not just, 6 or 10 years, whatever we're required to on the Medicare side, 10 years. I know proposed to 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. But final expense, it's kind of our compliance team. Do you want to not do this because we're not required? I'm like, no, we're still doing it, right? We're still looking at these certain things, because if you don't, you start, closing a blind eye to certain things, and your persistency, your placement, right? Your rapid disenrollment, all that starts changing, because now you're not listening and paying attention to, just like we do on the Medicare side of things. I get what you're saying on the MA side of it, though. I disagree in regards to, it does take a skill, but again, depending on how you're presenting the plan, is it the freebies? Is it the free dental? Is it the free ambulance care? Is it the Part B give back versus like really going into like copays and doctors and medications and, doing that type of stuff? That's what, the industry's gotten away from. Versus just okay, let me go marks this person. I see that they're on this at the PPO plan. That actually, benefit wise, that's probably the best plan for them. However, let me go pitch them on this WellCare Part B give back plan, because now I'm going to go pitch them because they got a $150 Part B give back, or whatever the Part B give back is, right? And not really talk about, all the other shit, right? That's where it's gotten us in trouble, over the past handful of years.
Yeah. And that's where the complaints come from. And it's not a good experience for anybody, the client, the carrier, the agent. I mean, if we're all honest about it, an agent doesn't benefit by enrolling somebody that just disenrolls in 3 months. They waste.
It does if you're on a HEAP commission, right? As long as I don't know all the HEAP deals that are out there, but for the ones that we do know about, as long as they stay on the books for 90 days, they don't give a shit, and then that upline, that TPMO, that FMO, that NMO, whatever the hell you want to call them, is ultimately held accountable with these carriers, because most of the time the agents are LOAs under that group, right? And then their numbers look really bad, these groups are starting to crack down. They're starting to terminate with complaints and CTMs and, CTMs and rapid disenrollments and stuff like that, which thank God it's coming, right? I just hope that the heaping stuff goes away altogether. Unless they were to levelize it across every carrier, every plan, right, and everything else. And then again, it pushes these agents and agencies to put these people at the right plans.
And the carriers getting back to realistic benefits for different plans instead of cutting
Zero
commission,
everything and then, hey, I'm going to give you back money every single month. And that's, again, like I said before, I understand why the carriers have done what they've done from a compensation standpoint to the agents, right? Don't agree with it. I understand, because you can't have everything free and a whole bunch of extras and pay the agents a shit ton of money as well. Math doesn't math, right? Math doesn't math in those scenarios.
100%. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about today is our wealth division and where we're going with that. I know we've been expanding on that side as well, but mainly that's coming from our Medicare supplement clients. It's not as huge on the MA side, but you're still getting some out of MA, but it's more Medicare supplement.
I don't have the mix. It's a great question, and I should have this, but I mean, we're just still trying to, figure out our way there. I need to run the numbers. I'm actually going to take that as a takeaway and have analytics run the numbers and see what the mix is, from a wealth client from MedSup or a wealth client from MA. We have some very wealthy MA clients, right? There's certain
absolutely.
Hillsborough and, down by you and stuff like that, where there are some really good MA plans that are zero premium or inexpensive that it's like, shit, I look at them and I'm like, man, that's actually good MA plan. Why not? Other than the fact that I may have to qualify to get on a Medicare supplement later, right? Unless I lose that plan and have some kind of SEP. But I don't know the mix, but I can tell you that I'm very happy with what I'm starting to see. It's been getting better and better and better and better. And we've been figuring it out over the past about 3 months now. We've been at this. And I mean, I can tell you over a 5-day period, I mean, he's got we only have one wealth agent now. We're hiring number 2 because we have enough leads coming in from the Medicare side. We're getting ready to start having the life insurance agents ask about wealth as well. Just that'll be sometime in January. But any which way, I mean, just over the past week, I mean, he's brought in $500,000 in annuities, which in return, I think our average comp on that has been, I don't know why this thing's not working. Average comp on that has been about 8.5%. So what's that? 500,000 times that is 42,000 in a week, right? Not every week's been like that. Love to tell you that we're bringing in, $160,000 a month, from that one wealth agent. That's not the case, but and I know he got a commitment for $1 million annuity too, sometime this week. That should be coming in as well. So I'm very, very happy with it. We are 100% going full bore with it. It's not a proof of concept anymore, like the last couple videos that I've talked about. It's working. Love the numbers, love everything that I'm seeing with it. And it's only going to help our persistency on the Medicare side of it too, right? And 100%. Life insurance side of it and so on and so forth.
So overall, AEP is coming to a close, but we've got plenty to do coming into 2026.
Yep.
Still growing the life side. Not sure if we're going to grow it by, double or triple.
Same thing on the Medicare side. We got a class coming in January. Right now, I think we're up to about 30 conditional hires. I think we're trying to get to about 40 conditional. So we're doubling down. We're going to keep growing. We're growing on both sides. We'll probably at least double both of our teams is what I'm expecting, both on Medicare and life insurance. But we may put more we may do a little bit bigger on life insurance. Again, I just got to figure out the numbers, but we'll have a video on that probably sometime in January, you and I can come up with a video kind of like really what our full game plan is in 2026. But I know it's 10:33. I'm 3 minutes late for a meeting, and we're at 33 minutes here, so I don't want to keep boring everybody.
All right. Well, hey guys, if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Our contact is going to be down below. Brokerage at Team EIP. You can join our Facebook group. If you like videos like this one, we've got plenty more about the insides of what we do internally at EIP. Also, I put out videos on rule changes and commission updates and regulatory changes regularly. So take a look at some of the other videos we've got on the channel. And like I said, don't hesitate to reach out and ask us any questions. We're here to help.
Yeah, one last thing there is, I think we onboarded 5 decent sized groups last year or this year in 2025. I'm thinking, Curt, you and I need to set up that meeting and talk about it, but I'm thinking we're going to be probably another 4 to 5 as well, from a downline perspective, well-established groups that are looking to transition into Medicare supplements or add Medicare supplements to their portfolio, add final expense to their portfolio. We're looking to help some groups that are wanting to get into it, but wanting to get into it the right way. But you have to be an established company. We just don't want the onesie twosie shops, right? We want the groups that, and like I said, we've got a couple groups that 200, 300, 400, 500 agents, right? That are coming under us, where there is not much value with the upline that they're with. The value you're going to get from us compared to another upline, get just as good, if not better, contracts than what you already have. But you get all the value of what Curt has to offer, what our entire team has to offer. Make sure you reach out to us.
Absolutely.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.